The court had spoken. The verdict had been delivered, and all that remained was silence, thick, suffocating silence that clung to the walls like fog. Alexei Morozov stood alone in the dock, his expression unreadable, his eyes locked on something distant, something no one else could see. A former police officer, once praised for his discipline and courage, now stood accused of a monstrous crime, the rape and brutal murder of his 18-year-old girlfriend, Sophia. They said he had burned her body in the forest where no one could find her. But they did find her. Or what was left of her. The evidence, the voices, the grief, it all pointed to one thing. Alexei would die for what he did. The judge asked if he had any final requests. And Alexei, with a voice void of fear or regret, uttered just one sentence: "Let me see my dog. Let me see Rustam." To most, it sounded like the desperate wish of a doomed man. A killer clinging to the last memory of something pure. But it wasn't that. It wasn't sentimentality. It wasn't whim. It was something far deeper. Something no one expected. Because in that quiet dog, in that silent pair of loyal eyes, lay a truth no one else could uncover. Alexei had lived on the edge of the forest, in a small wooden house, far from anyone who cared to remember him. After retiring from the force, he withdrew from the world. The snow field, they called it, frozen plains surrounded by pine trees and haunted winds. That was his world. That and Rustam, the dog he'd raised since it was a trembling puppy in his coat. The two of them had walked through every path, every clearing. Their bond was unshakable, forged in years of solitude, in every storm they had weathered together. It wasn't just companionship, it was a lifeline. But solitude had cracked when Sophia returned to his life. She was young, bright, wild. A spark from his past. They had met years earlier, when he was still an officer. Their connection rekindled quickly, too quickly. Passion turned to friction. Words turned into arguments. She said he was too closed off. Too cold. He tried to open up. Tried to hold on. But he was not a man built for vulnerability. Still, he tried for her. Until one day, she vanished. Their last messages had been tense. Sophia had written, "You'll never understand me." And Alexei had responded, "It would be bad if you left me." After that, nothing. Her phone went dark. She was gone. 3 days later, the police found a body in the woods, burned beyond recognition. DNA confirmed it was Sophia. The horror of what had been done to her sent shockwaves through the small community. Her father, Ivan Mikhailov, demanded answers, demanded justice. And to him, justice had one name: Alexei Morozov. The investigation was swift. Alexei's phone showed heated messages to Sophia. Threats, they called them. A pistol was found near the scene, and it matched the weapon used in her killing. Alexei had gone hunting the day she disappeared. His boot prints matched the forest floor near the body. Everything, the anger, the motive, the timing, it all pointed to him. Investigator Yuri Belov, known for his relentless efficiency, built the case brick by brick. The courtroom was packed. The evidence seemed ironclad. Judge Anton Sokolov delivered the death sentence without hesitation. To the world, the case was closed. But then came Rustam. Alexei's last request wasn't for food or forgiveness. It was for Rustam. The guards, thinking it a meaningless gesture, allowed the dog into the cell. But the moment Rustam saw Alexei, everything changed. He bounded into his master's arms, whimpering, licking his hands. Alexei bent down, touched his head, and whispered, "I'm not guilty. If you can do something, anything, do it." Rustam stared back, still and focused. Then, without warning, he bolted. He slipped past the guards, down the corridors, and into the street. No one could stop him. No one even tried. He vanished into the cold morning, heading toward the forest. Towards something only he could sense. The forest was brutal that night. Winds howled. Snow blinded the path. But Rustam didn't falter. He moved with purpose, nose to the ground, eyes scanning every shadow. He returned to the place where he and Alexei had spent countless hours. Where Sophia's body had been found. There, under the snow, under Time's attempt to bury the truth, Rustam found a bottle, then a condom, and finally, a small black object. A memory card. He picked it up gently with his teeth, turned, and ran. The village woke to a storm not of snow, but of questions. Rustam stood barking furiously at the judge's car. Unrelenting. Distressed. Alarmed. Sokolov, confused and unnerved, ordered his guards to follow the dog. Investigator Belov, skeptical but curious, joined them. Rustam led them deep into the woods. He stopped in a clearing and pointed his nose at the ground. There, they found the bottle, the condom, the card. The evidence was taken to a lab. The DNA on the condoms didn't belong to Alexei. That alone cracked the prosecution's case. But the memory card shattered it. On it was footage grainy, shaky, but undeniable. Sofia wasn't alone in those woods. She was with two men, Victor and Slava, members of a local biker gang known for their violence. The video showed everything. The assault, the fire, the laughter, and the unbearable cruelty. When the footage played in court, silence fell. Then gasps. Then weeping. Ivan Mikhailov, watching his daughter's final moments, broke down. He turned to Alexei, eyes filled with guilt. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Judge Sokolov rose. His voice was calm, but every word struck like thunder. "The court finds Alexei Morozov not guilty." Gasps again. But this time, they weren't of horror. They were of disbelief. Relief. A system had nearly killed an innocent man. Victor and Slava were arrested days later, hiding in a garage outside the city. They didn't resist. In court, Victor spoke with no shame. "Yes. We did it." Sofia was the last. She resisted. Slava nodded beside him. Cold. Empty. The court gave them the sentence they deserved. Death. But for Alexei, there was no celebration. No triumph. Only the bitter taste of loss. He had survived, but at what cost? Sofia was gone. His name had been dragged through the mud. His peace shattered. He left the city and moved to a quiet rural village with Rustam. There, far from flashing cameras and whispered gossip, he began to heal. He tended a garden, walked the forest trails, sat by the fire at night with Rustam at his feet. Though the pain remained, there was solace in simplicity. One evening, as the sun sank behind the trees, Alexei stroked Rustam's fur and whispered, "You gave me my life back." The dog leaned into him, and for the first time in months, Alexei felt warmth return to his chest. They had faced the storm. They had survived the injustice. And now, in the quiet arms of nature, they had found something resembling peace. Not happiness. Not forgiveness. But peace. If you believe loyalty has the power to overcome even the darkest of injustices, share this story. Let others know that truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way, especially when carried by the heart of a dog.